Good evening and welcome to our reading through the Bible in a year in the 1 year Bible devotion. And the devotion for today really is from yesterday, is kind of concluding the book of Job, but the readings for today are those for September 2nd. It took a little longer to wrap everything up, and so here we are, and we maybe kept you in suspense, but this is the ending, the conclusion to the book of Job. And if you go back and look over our daily devotions as we went through the book of Job, you'll have quite a Bible study on the book of Job, which is great for understanding a book that, quite frankly, is rather difficult to understand unless you have some instruction about it. So we're going to look at the conclusion of Job, Job chapter 40, verse 1 through 42, verse 17. And here we see that God concludes his speech with a little bit of a challenge to Job. Shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? He who argues with God, let him answer it. Well, even though really no one can argue with God and win, God, in a friendly way, I guess you could say, but a very ironic way, gives Job a chance to speak. Job responds in a way that is very subdued and humble. He lays his hand on his mouth. This gesture could be one of respect or a sign of silence, or maybe both. Job admits that he can't answer. And he doesn't take the easy way out and say that this was just all the result of his sin. He simply says that he's done speaking and implicitly ready to listen. So the Lord speaks, and there are two more nature poems, but different than the light and charming little sketches of the first speech. They're much longer and more imaginative. Before these poems, and really the conclusion, if you will, before the ending of Job, is found in chapter 40, verses 8 through 14. And God deals with the issue at hand. The problem, as seen by Job's friends, is whether Job has been forced to portray God as being in the wrong in order to maintain his own integrity. However, now God takes this dispute beyond that, and he deals with a matter of responsibility. In Israelite society, the judge who gave a verdict was obliged to see that justice was done. As adjudicator, he passed sentence. As vindicator, he secured the rights of the injured party. It was only indirectly in connection with restoring things to their proper order that wrongdoers were punished. Job has, in fact, rightly appealed to God to maintain his cause. Job is reminded here that he does not have the ability to secure his own vindication. So stop trying, Job. The emphasis here is on the power of God. The contrast of God's power to Job's lack of power wasn't to humiliate Job and convince him that he could never succeed in an unequal contest with God. No, we see at last, however, what these excursions by God in his reply into nature are all about. And Job just now realizes that he is no more able to exercise jurisdiction in the moral realm than he is able to control nature. Job isn't equal to the task of being as majestic as God, or bringing down the wicked, or even bringing about or wishing the death of a wicked man. None of this contradicts what Job had been saying, truth be told, and he wasn't that far away from what God is explaining here. Simply put, Job learned that justice must be left up to God, and Job is called upon to end his quest and hand the whole matter over to God trustingly and without worry, and without insisting that God had to first answer all his questions and give him a formal acquittal. There is a great depth of theology here, and a rebuke in it for any person who, by complaining about particular events in life, implies that he or she could propose to God better ways of running the universe than those that God currently uses. People are eager to use force to combat evil, and in their impatience, they wish God would do the same more often. But by such destructive acts, men do and become evil. To act in the ways God describes in verses 8 through 14 for people would mean that Job wouldn't only usurp the role of God, he would become, for all intents and purposes, another Satan. For only God can destroy creatively. Only God can transmute evil into good. As creator responsible for all that happens in this world, he alone is able to make everything work into good. The reality of God's goodness lies beyond justice. This is why the categories of guilt and punishment, true and terrible though they are, can only view human suffering as a consequence of sin, not an occasion for grace. In the next section, verses 15 through 24, we see two rhapsodies concerning monstrous animals: Behemoth, the fiercest land animal, and Leviathan, the most terrifying sea creature. What are they? Are they mythological? Do they refer to some actual animal? Well, most scholars view these as poetic descriptions of actual animals. Behemoth fits the hippo quite well, and Leviathan fits the crocodile well enough. The text is difficult, but the point is clear. God's strength is superior to ours, which means that we can trust him to manage the affairs of the universe. Job, of course, is satisfied. More than that, he has a new appreciation of God and the things of God, and understands that the world is beautiful and terrifying, but God is omnipresent. He is omnipotent. He is mysterious. He is wonderful. In the end, the tables are turned on Job's friends, and they find themselves depending on his prayers for God's mercy toward them. Job ends his days in full enjoyment of all the relationships in which a person is fully human. His reinstatement is not the result of his repentance. In fact, it is when Job prayed for his friends that the Lord restored Job's fortunes. It is worth noting that even when everything is set right, Job still feels hurt for his losses, and he is in need of human comfort for them. The Lord restores Job double what had been taken away. For some, this happy ending is a bit of a letdown to the book of Job. However, it is not as if Job is rewarded for his good works. It really is all about God's grace, his undeserved and quite audacious love. Plus, it'd be a little crazy if Job would be left destitute simply to reinforce the theological points that are made in the book of Job. Perhaps, in the end, it is fitting that Job's mini resurrection reminds us that Job also testifies to the resurrection of Jesus and our own resurrection from the dead. I kind of liken the conclusion, the ending, the outcome in the book of Job to what happens after a beautiful sunset. So this evening I went running, and it was just after the sun had set, and so I kind of saw the whole color progression in the sky. You can have a beautiful, magnificent sunset that is really just the pinnacle of the whole experience. But after the sunset, it's not the end, of course. If you wait, you get to see things unfold. The continuation, if you will, of the sunset as the sky changes color and the stars begin to appear one by one. That's kind of the way things happen at the end of the book of Job. And isn't it wonderful in life when things happen like that too, when you can just all of a sudden be amazed at God's goodness and mercy and love and the wonder of who God is. And then as you reflect on that, other things take on new color and new light, and you can see points of light in what otherwise used to be dark. And so anyways, I'm waxing a little poetic, I guess, right now too, but I hope you get the idea, and may God be